Okay, so I have a lot of knowledge about the current boss blitz. It's the end of the season, but I have managed to do a 2 million score. I think this is improbable, but I can't this month. I don't think don't have the resources. Maybe with a better record, but I don't want to grind that, unfortunately. But yeah, this team is pretty hard to play. And you might not notice that. I'm gonna go over the showcase I posted, I think yesterday or the day before, and like kind of break it down. But if you haven't seen my invest, it's basically this record, which is not that good. I'm missing 2 levels in Lucky Bullet, 2 levels in Doom's Echo, a couple levels in Lethal Inferno as well. These are possible to get. My notes are not that great either. I mean, it's decent, but it's not the best record, definitely. Definitely improvable. Maybe I could even drop some levels in this. I don't really need that many levels in Hunting Mark and just put them in Lucky Bullet, Doom's Echo, and Lethal Inferno. That would be very nice, but can't get everything. My Chaton has her main skill at 10. She has pretty decent emblems. The first emblem is basically perfect. The second emblem is good, but I'm missing 15% crit rate on it, or at least 7.5, and that's a lot. That's very a lot. That's a lot. If I count up all my crit rate during the fight, I have around 88%, and with that additional 7.5 or even 15, that would have made the run so much easier, and you're gonna see why when I break down the run after. But I would trade that pen roll for a crit rate roll, definitely. That pen roll is like 8% damage. I think a 15% crit rate in its stead would give me like something like 20% damage. That would be very insane. That would be very good. Unfortunately, I don't. The last emblem is pretty good. I had to double temper Mark of Darkness, so I cannot temper anything on this. It's still decent. Max talent, obviously. My Snow Slaru doesn't really have, her skills don't matter. I have Celebration Resume, which is the best you can get on her. Fairy Tail Rule and Toyarmi don't scale that well, and these are the only 3 potentials you use. You don't need charge efficiency on her as well. So she's pretty much done with emblems. I mean, if I manage to get like Fairy Tail Rule, or Toyarmi, I could use these pots and give them to other trackers. So I could move some pots from Fairy Tail Rule and Toyarmi into Flora and Chaton, which would make the record a bit better. But okay, that's basically it. Flora, I have the bare minimum charge efficiency because her support her ultimate is always up right when I need it. So bare minimum amount of charge efficiency. Fortuning verification, very good. Emotional catharsis does nothing. And on Flora, you can get a bunch of stuff. You can get guest performer, perfect acting, reinforced impression, lethal inferno. So I have a bunch of additional potential that I could get next to this. So this emblem is easily improvable, if you want to know. There I could get support skill level as well. Also, our support skill is level 9. I'm missing a bit of crit damage there, which is kinda bad, but I just don't have the resources. Like, I could, but I would literally run out of everything I have, so I don't really care how to do that right now. So that's basically my invest. And so, right now, the run. So before the run, I have a couple of things to talk about. Yeah, also I forgot about the discs, sorry. Discs are kinda important. These are my discs. I have Snowshlow's disc at 1, Crescendo 1. I have Chaton's disc at Crescendo 6, which is a lot of skill damage and skill damage taken. This is permanently up through the whole fight, and you make sure it is with the rotation. And these are just the harmonies, don't care. And the last one I use is Shishia. Shishia is like C4, so that's pretty good. That's a decent amount of Ignis damage and skill damage permanently up, then a bit more skill damage there. The Ignite part doesn't work, so it's only the first 4%. So yeah, this on-site disc I'm using. I am using Fist of Courage and Joyful Gathering, and Sunlit Blossom because this gives skill damage, which is very good for Chaton. So yeah, that's basically it. For discs, my invest, yeah. So the run, you can see that I start by doing a Chaton skill to, this is, there I get a stack, I don't know if you see my mouse, yes you see. I get a stack of the disc, that's the disc. This can stack up 3, so you you use your skill before the fight to get 1 stack, and then when you enter the fight, you use your skill 2 times in a row and you get 3 stacks, and then you never drop them. So that's basically it. The start, there's nothing much going on. I just wait until the 3 seconds turns into 2 seconds. I'm gonna roll in, and then I'm gonna start the fight. On the way, I use Flora and Slaru, and my rotation makes it so that I can pretty much always use Flora on cooldown the whole fight, so I don't have to think about her. Slaru I have to delay before the ultimate. And Chaton you have to delay sometimes, it's a bit annoying. Chaton is the hardest to manage. Flora you delay 1 time during the fight. Yeah, 1 time. I'm gonna talk about it when I get there. And Slaru you delay it before the ultimate as well, always. I've said the first one. The first one you wait for Slaru's skill because of how my rotation works. I still managed to fit 4 ultimates in it, and I managed to also fit 5 Chaton's ultimate. So I don't know if that's better than the 4 Chaton ultimate for Slaru build, because Chaton's ultimate works in a weird way with the Doom's Echo potential. Doom's Echo is this one. Yeah, this potential, which makes Chaton deal more against damage for 15 seconds after you use ultimate. This doesn't snapshot. Yeah, I need to talk about snapshotting now. That's gonna be a big part of it. So I'm gonna just let the start of the fight play. So you can see that right now I am using Chaton skill. So Chaton skills applies a debuff that is the mark, dark mark. The dark mark can stack up to 4 times. So the first time you apply the dark mark is the regular dark mark. You can see that the stuff that drops from the sky is just regular little bolts. Then the second time you apply a dark mark, a dark ray, and apply a second stack of dark mark on the enemy, you will get a different animation. And then this animation changes again when you reach 3 stacks, and then at 4 stacks it's the final. So you can see that right now the thing that's dropping is like a little ball. Then I'm gonna use the Chaton skill again. You're gonna see in a minute. And you can see that right now it's little rockets. So that's 3 stacks of dark mark. And then when I use it again, you're gonna see it right there. Now it's a big ray like that every time, big ray. And so you want to keep that ray the whole time, the whole fight. And when you apply dark mark, it lasts 14 seconds. That's a very important thing, along with Chaton's skill cooldown. Chaton has a 6-second skill cooldown, but she takes 1 second to cast her skill. And the dark mark lasts 14 seconds. These are values to remember. So yeah, I'm gonna go back a bit, and I'm gonna explain how snapshotting works now. So you can see that I have some buffs under my character, and when I use the skill, the damage of the dark mark, the damage of the skill and the damage of the dark mark will keep these buffs even if they fade. So that means that if I have Flora's buff active with a crit rate, that means that my dark mark for the whole 14-second duration will have that crit rate buff, even if it fades from my character. So that's what this whole run kind of revolves around. And that's what makes Chaton very strong in the current boss blitz. There's also the ring around the boss that you can snapshot. You can see that the little star buff there is when the ring is not around the boss, you get the 80% skill damage amplification, which is like an 80% damage multiplier on skill damage, which is what your dark mark deals skill damage. You can see it right there, it's in the skill. And you can see that inflicting dark mark for 14 seconds, Chaton deals 200% of attack, 217% of attack as Ignis skill damage to target inflicted with dark mark every 2 seconds, and it's every 1 second with this potential. So that means that for the whole 14 seconds, you will have the buffs of your character and also the buff, the 80% skill damage from the boss if you shoot the boss while he doesn't have his circle around him. So that's how snapshotting works. Now, you want to take advantage of that as much as possible. and you have a couple potentials that you need to have to take advantage of that. And I'm going to go over them a bit later when I'm doing my burst. But yeah, there's also a concept in that if you use Chaton skill and then you use it again after 6 seconds, so the 14-second duration of the Dark Mark is not finished, but you still use Chaton skills again. So you can see I do it right there. I use it 1 time, 2 times, so that right now my Dark Mark was refreshed and it will last 14 seconds again, but the damage will update. So that means that if you refresh your Dark Mark, your current buffs will snapshot again, which is logic when you think about it. So you can see that right now I have a pretty bad snapshot because I had the circle around the boss, and I did not have any buffs. So now, well, I had Snowy Slaru and Flora's buff, so it was decent buffs, but the circle was still around the boss, so it was a bad snapshot. Then the circle fades, and then now I have this buff, and now I still have all my Flora and Snowy Slaru buff. How I know I still have the buffs? I mean, you can look under your character to see if you still have the buffs, but that's not how I do it. I know that my Snowy Slaru buffs fade when the skill reaches 8 seconds. Goes from 8 to 7 seconds, you lose Snowy Slaru's buffs. When Flora's skill goes from 4 to 3 seconds, you lose Flora's buffs. So that's what I always look at. I always look at this when I'm about to refresh. Well, right now I'm not because the start is the same every time, and I've done this like at least a couple of 100 times. I've done, yeah, I think at least two, maybe more than 300 attempts on this. I spent like 40 hours or something. It was a crazy amount of time. Anyway, you can see that right now I'm gonna refresh. And right now it's a good snapshot because I have the buff boss, 80% skill damage up. I have all my Flora buffs, all my Snowy Slaru buffs because they have not expired yet. And then they expire. You can see that I lose all of my buffs. But I don't care because you can see the damage is still, you can see the boss is still taking a lot of damage. And I'm not, I don't have my buffs anymore. So anyway, I use Flora again. There I do a refresh. Why do I do this refresh? It's a bad refresh because I don't have Snowy Slaru and I don't, there is the circle around the boss. So right now I'm about to do a bad snapshot, but that's to set up for the next snapshot, which will be a lot better. So you can see that right now I am still not at max mark. You can see the little rocket. So that means I need to hit the boss one more time to be at max mark. So I'm gonna hit it one more time. Right now I'm at max mark and I got my skill reset. And I kind of want this reset because that's a big part of the run. Sometimes Chaton skill will reset because of the lucky bullet potential. You can see that if the laser lands a crit, it will reset the main skill cooldown, but that can only happen every 12 seconds. So that means that if you have not hit the boss with your Dark Ray in the last 12 seconds, it will be able to reset. And there are a couple resets timing that are very important. This one is important, but it's okay if you don't get it. It's early enough that if I don't get it, I reset. But this is one of the resets I really want because then I can just hold it, and when the ring fades, I can just shoot again to snapshot Flora's buffs and Snowy Slaru's buffs. And then I have my big snapshot with all my buffs, the boss buffs, and the good mark with the ray, this one, the big ray, bomb. So that's my first very good snapshot. Then I do something a bit weird. So I keep using Flora's on cooldown, but right now I'm gonna use Chaton's skill to keep that disc buff. So the disc buff, I didn't really talk about it until now, but basically it lasts 9 seconds and you need to use your skill to keep it up. So it's when the Ignis main tracker casts a skill, you will gain skill damage for 9 seconds and the very important Ignis skill damage taken for 9 seconds. So you want to always stay at 3 stacks for this 30% damage. And since it lasts 9 seconds, yeah, I need to go there because she's gonna talk, sorry about that. Since it lasts 9 seconds, that means that you cannot just not use the skill for 9 seconds. You need to use it at least every 9 seconds. And that doesn't really match with the 14 seconds of the dark mark, if you remember, because you want to take advantage of a snapshot usually for the full 14 seconds. So what you have to do is you have to use your skill and cancel it with something. So you can cancel it with either a dodge or Chaton's ultimate. So right now I'm using Chaton's ultimate to cancel the skill. So right there, I use the skill, and you can see that my Chaton did not shoot, but it's on cooldown. So that means for the disc it's valid, my disc buff got refreshed, and I didn't overwrite my snapshot on the boss. So you can see that the damage is still going to keep going, and you can see, boom, 300 million, 300 million, 300 million. You can see that the damage does not move even if the boss gets his buff back. That's how snapshotting works. So right there, I got a good snapshot. I used it for the whole 12-second duration. But now comes the tricky part. When you do a cancel like that, you need to be very fast. Otherwise, you are going to go down into piece mark, what I call, but you are basically going to reset your mark. So if I'm not fast enough, if I hold my skill a bit after it comes off cooldown, my mark will expire and I will go back to 1 stack of mark. And I said you want to keep your 4 stacks of mark the whole fight. So that cannot happen. So when you do a cancel, you always have to refresh Chaton skill instantly. So you can see there, I'm gonna use it instantly, refresh it, even if it's a bad snapshot, I don't care, and keep my stacks of mark on the boss. Unfortunately, you cannot see in the boss's debuffs how many stacks of mark you have on him, but you can see it from the animation, the big trail, this one you can see right there. So right now I'm at the first burst. So the first time you can do 4 really big snapshots in this run because of one specific potential. That potential is Toy Army. Toy Army is a buff that stacks up to 350% attack. So you want to snapshot it when it's at 10 stacks. You cannot at 10 stack, and I'm gonna get to why a bit later, but you want to snapshot that. This is active at 10 stacks for like 1 second. When the no, it's a bit active a bit longer when the transformation expires. The transformation lasts 12 seconds. So you have basically 3 seconds of Toy Army at 10 stacks. But we want to snapshot it at 8 stacks. Why? Because Celebration Resumed. Celebration Resumed is another huge attack buff, and it lasts 10 seconds. So when Slaru enters the field, you always do it like this. You use Slaru's skill. You can see that I'm gonna use Slaru's skill right there. I use Slaru's skill, you can see it, it's very quick. And then you instantly use the ultimate. Because the skill will still go off, you will get Celebration Resumed. You get Celebration Resumed if you only use the ultimate. But if you don't use Slaru's skill, you won't have Fairy Tail Roll and all that stuff. So you use Slaru's skill, you use Slaru's ultimate. You get the Celebration Resumed buff, and the Celebration Resumed buff lasts only 10 seconds. And in these 10 seconds, Toy Army can only stack up to 8 stacks. So now, I am in burst. So I will want to snapshot the boss when my Toy Army buff is at 8 stacks, or when the Slaru's ultimate cooldown is at 31 seconds. You're going to see what I do. So now I am going to refresh my mark because my last snapshot was very bad. Now I have a very good snapshot opportunity with my army is not stacked up yet, but I don't care. I just want to get some damage in. So I refresh my snapshot with Flora's buffs and Slaru's buff, and like one stack of Toy Army maybe. So right now it's not that big. Then I use Flora's ultimate because Flora's ultimate just gives a bit of ignis damage taken. There is a specific timing for Flora's ultimate. I always try to use it 2 seconds after Slaru's ultimate because it's getting a bit technical. I'm sorry. Where's Flora? Flora has that potential, which is Lethal Inferno. Lethal Inferno lasts 10 seconds, and you can see that the ultimate lasts 8 seconds. So you will have, so the Lethal Inferno takes some time to ramp up, and then it will be active for 10 seconds after it's ramped up. So it lasts like 18 seconds. So I want my Lethal Inferno to cover my whole 14-second big snapshot duration. So I always use Flora's ultimate 2 seconds after Snowy Slaru, because then it will take 8 seconds to ramp up, and by then I will have snapshotted my big snapshot, and then for the last 10 seconds it will affect my big snapshot. Pretty much. So yeah, use Flora's ultimate. Then I will want to use Flora again to get her buffs. And then I want to wait until I'm at 8 stacks. You can see that I'm gonna use it when 7 stack is about to fade. You can see I use my skill, and then my skill takes a bit, and then it lands on the boss when I'm at 8 stack. And I still have the buff of the boss, you can see right there. And this is the boss that's about to fade is also Celebration Resumed. So right now I have all of Flora's buffs, 8 stack of Toy Army, Celebration Resumed, and the boss, the big area around the boss is not there, so I have the 80% skill damage. So that's the biggest snapshot you can do on this build. You want to do that 4 times. Also, yeah, the snapshot happens when your skill lands on the boss, not when you use your skill. So if you use your skill and then your buffs fade and then your ray lands on the boss, you will not snapshot your buffs. You need the buffs to be active when the ray hits the boss. That's when the snapshot occurs. So yeah, so right now, big snapshot. Now I don't care about my buffs. I just want to keep this snapshot as long as possible. So you can see I'm gonna do a dodge cancel with my actual dodge. So right there, I wait, I use my skill, and then I dodge. It's a bit of a tricky timing. Sometimes that happens. Whatever. And then I want to keep. Then you can see that my mark is still in top quality because of this beam. So everything's correct so far. So yeah, I use Slaru and Flora of cooldown. I don't care right now because I'm going to update my snapshot. So right now my mark is about to fade. So as I said, if you dodge cancel, you need to use Chaton skill. So I use Chaton skill. This one is can reset or not. I don't care if it resets or not. If it resets, that's a bit better because I'm more used to this timing. But it's fine. So I just use it again. I wait for it to land on the boss, and then I use Chaton's ultimate. I don't cancel the reset because I still have Flora's buffs and Laru's buff active at this moment. So that's fine. And then I use my second Chaton ultimate so that I make this snapshot stronger. The snapshot is not that great because it doesn't have the 8 Toy Army stacks, but you cannot keep a snapshot with 8 Toy Army stacks through the whole fight. You can only have this 4 times because you can use Laru's 4 times during the fight. Laru's ultimate. So yeah, let's keep going. Then I use Chaton's ultimate. Then the boss will wake up, start doing random patterns. I will cancel this one because right now I have a good snapshot going, and if I update now, I am not going to have Flora's buffs, Laru's buff, and I'm going to not have the boss buff because he has this circle around him. So right now I just cancel. That's the best case scenario for damage. Then I dodge the boss. I got the good pattern because sometimes there it keeps doing attacks, but right there it jumped there, and if it jumps there, that's a lot easier for me. I just want to go back a bit, just for something that's for me if I watch this video again later. But basically what I did at this point is I looked at my score at 2 minutes, and if it was under 850,000, I reset basically, and if I was above 900,000, I was getting nervous because that's a really good try. 880,000 pretty much is decent. That's a decent try. So I was like, okay, I'm on pace for 2 million. I'm going to keep going. So there, I keep going. Boss wakes up, goes into the middle, as I said earlier. And then there's the second burst setup. So right there, I use Flora on cooldown still. That's not the time you delay Flora. I need to since I dodge cancel, I need to refresh Chaton. I want this reset because it makes the setup later earlier. I think I get it. Yeah, I get the reset right now, so it's fine. Then I need to delay Snowy Slaru because as I said earlier, you really want to use Snowy Slaru at the same time as your ultimate to be able to snapshot the maximum amount of stacks of Toy Army as possible. So I wait for Snowy Slaru's ultimate. And I also wait, I delay Chaton's skill because I will want to use it at a specific timing to set up the snapshot more easily for me. So right now, as soon as the ultimate is up, I used it a bit early, doesn't matter. I use Snowy Slaru. Then 2 seconds after, I will use Chaton skill and Flora's ultimate because that makes my setup for 8 stacks of Toy Army a lot easier. You will see why. So then I use Flora's ultimate 2 seconds after, so that's normal, but I also use Chaton skill. You can see there it went through. Then I will pretty much need to wait for Flora skill to come up again, and then use Chaton skill to snapshot 8 stacks. So right there, I am the ring faded, so I'm safe there. Then I have Flora. If I don't delay Chaton skill there, as I just did, then Chaton skill comes off cooldown before Flora, and that's a problem because when you use Flora, you need to wait 1 second pretty much for buffs to appear. So if I use Chaton skill too early and I don't delay it by 2 seconds, I will drop my disc stack because the disc stacks, you need to remember, last 9 seconds. So when you're delaying skills cast like that, you pretty much need to be careful about that. So right there, I pretty much delay Chaton skill so that I can use Flora skill, wait 1 second, and then use Chaton skill. So pretty much I use Flora skill, I wait for her buffs to appear and for Toyami to tick to 8, and then I use Chaton skill instantly, and snapshot. You can see my ray is hitting the boss. I have 8 Toyami stacks, celebration resumed, the buff boss, all of Flora's buffs. So that's the second big snapshot of the run. So this snapshot is also successful. Then I have, I think, the most tricky timing of the fight, because then it's a very hard timing. Why? Because I need to get the next crit. The next crit reset on Chaton is very important. And there is something a bit weird. I said earlier that the crit reset can only happen every 12 seconds. Because of Lucky Bullet. This effect can be triggered once every 12 seconds when you crit reset the main skill cooldown. And because of that, because my skill just reset right now, I used it and it just reset, I'm going to cancel it. But if I cancel it exactly, I'm going to cancel it with my ultimate, as I did for the first snapshot. The problem is that if I do that when my ultimate comes off cooldown at this moment, there will be a problem, because when my Chaton skill is up again, the 12 seconds will not have expired. It means that I won't be able to get a reset. If I don't get that reset, I lose a lot of damage. So I need to delay my Chaton skill until Flora is at 6 seconds, because you can see right there that I use the skill when Flora is at like 13, about to turn to 12 seconds. So what I do is I delay my Chaton skill until Flora is at 6 seconds, and then I use the skill and use Chaton's ultimate. So that next time I use my Chaton skill, I can get the reset. And I need to keep track, because this is the most important moment of the fight, because I can lose my 4 stacks of mark there, because I'm pushing it a bit. This reset is a very weird timing, and if I use Flora and I use Chaton's skill a bit too early and don't get her buffs, I have a 50% chance of getting the reset. If I get the reset, it's fine. I can keep going. It's fine. If I don't get the reset, I restart. So I need to get that reset. I need Flora's skills to be active when I use it, and I need to use Flora's skill, and when the buff appears, I need to use Chaton's skill. So I need to pre-shot Chaton's skill even to get the reset and not drop the mark. Dropping the mark is also very important. It's a bit tricky to wrap your head around, but I have 3 goals right now. I need to get my reset. I need to have Flora skills to get that reset, and I need to keep my mark. So you can see that I'm going to use Flora skill, and then pretty much instantly use Chaton skill, not waiting for Flora, and then I pray for the reset pretty much. You can see that I think Flora buffs appear. No, they appear after it. So I got lucky right there. So right now I had a 55% chance of getting that reset, because I didn't have Flora's buffs when I got it. But I got lucky, I got the 55, then Flora's buff appear, and then I use it again to snapshot Flora's buffs, Snowy Slaru's buffs, and the boss buffs. You can see it's right there. So that's a decent snapshot after a burst snapshot. So I will want to keep that snapshot, and I will dodge cancel it. It's possible to have Flora's buffs when you use Chaton skill and not drop the mark, but it's so tricky, and if I try to delay it a bit too much, I go down into piece mark, I lose my mark, and then I have to restart the fight. So it's extremely tricky. That's also a time where I check my score. If my score is at 1.4 right now, it's a very good run. So I was like getting more and more nervous. So yeah. So then it's fine. I keep going. I got the reset, I'm happy. I will need to touch cancel this. So yeah. Touch cancel, so that means I will need to refresh it instantly when it comes off cooldown. Also something I didn't talk about at all during the fight. I'm going to go back to the game for that. Flora has a talent that gives you 10% skill crit rate when you are above 50% HP. So that means that I need to stay above 50% HP. If I go down under 50% HP, pretty much before the last 30 seconds of the fight, I need to restart because I lose 10% crit rate. And that's just so much when I only have 88% and it's already so hard to get my resets. I need this 10% damage, 10% crit rate. So that means I cannot make a single mistake. If I get a bit too close to the boss and he has his ring, you will see I will do that a bit, but I take so much chip damage. I really need to be careful. If I take, when you have 1 million score, if you take one hit from the boss, pretty much you lose all your life. So I cannot make any mistake about that. I need to keep my HP, so I need to be careful about that. But basically, I'm gonna dodge. I just canceled my skill, I think. Let me check. Yeah, I think I canceled it. I refresh, I got my reset. Then I cancel it, yeah. And then it's gonna be the third burst of the fight. So this one is a bit tricky because I had a hard time finding the right time to use Flora. So that's the only time of the fight where I need to delay Flora. So right there I dodge. Since I reset before, I need to reset. I need to update my mark with Chaton to not drop it. So I use Chaton skill. If I get that reset, it's very good. Not getting that reset is pretty bad. It makes the rotation a bit worse. Getting it right now is lucky because I don't have Flora running, so I only have 55% chance. So getting this is good. Not getting it, it's fine. I can play and not get it. I can not get it and play, but if I get it, it makes this part a lot easier. So now I'm telling Flora and Snowy Slaru. I will use Flora, Snowy Slaru, and Snowy Slaru's ultimate at the same time. Then I need to wait for Flora's buffs to appear, but basically I want to wait until I have Flora's buffs to use my skill again, to snapshot the first part of the ult, and then use Flora's ultimate. So I wait, my Flora buffs appear, I use Chaton skill, and I use Flora's ultimate. Pretty simple. Then usually the boss is trying to hit me right now, and the rings respawn, so it's a bit tricky. I need to dodge the ring, dodge the boss, and I will need to snapshot 8 stacks of toy army. It's not as easy as the earlier 2 snapshots where the boss was immobile. So I need to wait for the ring to fade. But basically I'm pretty much only looking at the toy army stack counter. Then you can see the ring fades, and right as it fades and as my toy army stacks go to 8, I use my skill. And then you can see that it hits the boss. I have toy army, celebration resumed. The buff boss, so another big snapshot. And then I instantly use Chaton's ult after I hit the boss to buff the big snapshot. Then I got the reset. Getting this reset is a bit annoying because I need to time it well, because there's also a refresh like earlier. So you can see that I'm gonna dodge cancel when Flora is at 12 seconds, I think, because that's basically 6 seconds. I want to keep that snapshot, so I need to dodge cancel this. I did it a bit earlier there. That's kind of a mistake. I needed to wait a bit more. Because the more I can use this off cooldown, the easier it is for me to keep up the mark. So then I use Flora's on cooldown, Snowy Slaru on cooldown. And then I am at a part where I want the next reset. So because I dodge cancel too early, I think I can't get it. I think I'm at 11 seconds when I use it. And I should have been at 12 seconds and been able to get the reset. But if I get that reset, I get even more damage. I don't get it there, you will see. Because right now I'm gonna shoot in the ring, and you can see that the ring is gonna fade right after. The ring fades. And if I get the reset, I can just shoot, and snapshot Flora, Snowy Slaru, and get a big snapshot. So right there I don't get it. So I need to adjust a bit. And that means I will use the skill and land it on the boss again. So right now I was thinking like, okay, I didn't get the reset, what can I do to deal the most damage? Right now the boss doesn't have his ring around him. I have Flora's buffs that are running. I don't have Snowy Slaru unfortunately, but I will refresh the snapshot, I don't care. I get the reset, I don't really care, I just want to use it again. Right now I'm just trying to set up the next buff, the next burst. Okay, so right now I use my skill, don't care. Now I delay Snowy Slaru again for the next burst and final burst. So I use it. Then I need to wait for Flora's skill and Chaton's skill to use Flora's ultimate. So I use Flora's skill, I wait for the buffs, I use Chaton's skill, and I use Chaton and Flora. I mean, I could do Flora and Chaton, doesn't matter. I use Chaton and Flora at the same time. The snapshot I have on the boss right now should be decent, I think. Let me check. Yeah, the boss doesn't have the ring. I have Flora's buffs, Snowy Slaru's buffs running. So this is a decent snapshot so far. So this is pretty good. Right now I am extremely nervous because I never got a run this good this far. The boss breaks, so that's even more perfect. And then when I get out of Chaton's ultimate, I have a choice to make. I see that the boss doesn't have his ring yet. I don't see it, but now I see it, that the buff is about to fade, so that means the ring is going to respawn. I only have 6 stacks, and I have my Flora and my Snowy Slaru running. So what I do, I just press it. I manage to land the ray on the boss while I still have the buff of the buff. The buff of the boss. I have 7 stacks only, not 8. So it's not perfect, but it's still a very good snapshot, especially since it was a bit hectic. And then you can see that the buff of the boss instantly fades when I reach 8 stacks. So you can see that the ring instantly respawns when I reach 8 stacks. So if I waited 1 more second, the snapshot would have been much worse. So right now I just got an insane snapshot with 7 stacks, and I'm at 1.9 million. So I'm like, okay, I just need to survive and finish the fight. So basically what I do is I use all my skills. The boss is broken, so I don't have to dodge right now. I instantly dodge cancel to keep the snapshot because it's a very big snapshot. I use Flora, I use Snowy Slaru, and then the mark is about to fade, so I just hit it 2 times and get my final score. So that's about it for the run. That's pretty much, I think, all I wanted to say about the rotation, about the tricky timings and all that stuff. Also, I didn't really talk about this potential on Chaton, Mark of Darkness. This potential doesn't snapshot. So so you can see that during the fight, I am trying to use, when I can, Flora. So I can use pretty much Flora off cooldown every time. In Snowy Slaru, I only need to delay her skill before the ultimate, the burst. And because that gives me the best uptime on both of these skills, so that my Mark of Darkness can deal as much damage as possible, because this will just deal constant damage during the fight, and it will be affected by your current buffs. So while you keep the snapshot going, I try to go for max uptime on the skills. I think this is the best uptime I could get. I pretty much only delay Flora for 4 seconds during the fight for the third burst, which is around there. So yeah, I delay Flora 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds. Snowy Slaru, I delay her for 16 seconds because there's no, actually 12 seconds because I don't for the first burst. So I delay her for 12 seconds. So that's the maximum skill uptime for Mark of Darkness. And also because Mark of Darkness can only be triggered once per second, but you need to be shooting at the boss for it to trigger. So that means that I want to keep shooting the boss at all times. So every time I have to dodge, every time I have to reposition myself and there's an ad nearby, it's annoying. So I need to be positioned the best I can to keep shooting at the boss. And I don't want to dodge too much because when you're dodging, you're not shooting that much. But you can see that at some point during the fight, I always try to place myself near the top of the screen and make the boss go from around me like this, because it's easier for me when he moves like that. You can see right there that I just dodged there. I'm positioning myself there, always trying to keep shooting the boss, dodging as little as I can. So that's also something that's pretty important to note during the fight. You want to keep shooting. And also, yeah, something very annoying. I got pretty lucky in this run, but if the boss spawns a lot of blades around you, you can see at the end it happens. I think it's around. It's after that. Sorry. You can see that there's a lot of blades around me, and if you move, sometimes Chaton will target like a random enemy. And so right now I got lucky. My ray went to the boss because I was close enough. But if I was a bit further away, the ray would have gone on a random sword and it's run over basically. I cannot miss a ray. That's terrible. And the most annoying time when this can happen is when the boss is going to the middle, like right there. He's gonna jump, you can see, and he's starting to throw knives at you. Then he spawns a bunch of blades around the field, and if you are too close to these blades, Chaton will shoot them and will not shoot the boss. So that's also something you need to be careful about. If you don't move, she will keep shooting the boss, but if you move to dodge, she will shoot the nearest target. It's very bad targeting. I don't know why we can't target what we want. It's very annoying. But that is what it is. We can need the lock-on system or something because that's terrible. That lost me a couple of runs that were going well. Very annoying. Also, last thing I wanted to talk about. One last thing. What was it? But basically, it's related to this. Man, I can't think about it. Sorry. But yeah, you really need to be careful about the way Chaton will aim on the boss and all that stuff. But yeah, I can't think about what I wanted to say, sorry. But that's pretty much it. A lot of stuff to think about during the run. Really need to dodge the boss well. I mean, this took me a lot of practice to get down, keep my little HP high, make the boss do what I want pretty much all the time. It's just, yeah. If you're willing to go to that length, then feel free to try. I think I have my rotation right there. I posted it in the description of the showcase, but I will also post it in the description of this video, I think. This video is quite lengthy. It goes into much detail about how Chaton works, and I think it'll be useful for the next boss blitzes as well. But you won't have to care about this buff, probably. I don't think there will be something quite like that for a while. So yeah, I think that's it for me. Thanks for watching if you made it there. Even if you didn't, thanks for watching anyway. And yeah, see ya.